Hello and welcome to the All of God's Daughters channel. This is episode 6 in the Preparing for Marriage series. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. Being virtuous is something that must be inside of us before it can be something that we do. If not, then we will force virtuous behavior, and unfortunately this will be something that will be exhausting and short-lived. I like referring to being virtuous as something that is both internal and external. And for today, I will only be focusing on being internally virtuous. Being internally virtuous is all about how we think, what we think, and also what we love. So the word virtuous means courageous or brave, noble, honorable, or pure, having inner strength, having moral thoughts, and being of high quality. Proverbs 23:7 tells us about the link between what we think and what we are. So the phrase there says that as he thinks in his heart, so is he. So when we try to become godly, when we try to become a virtuous wife, it is something that must start inside, not outside. So we must first start with our beliefs, our hearts, our minds, and then we can start with our habits and our actions. Because our habits and our actions are something that is rooted in our hearts. So I'd like to talk today about what we ingest. In other words, what we expose ourselves to, what we meditate on, the thought patterns we develop because of these things, and the mental habits, the things we think, and how these things can influence how we choose to live and what we choose to believe. So let's look at the definitions list again, and I'd just like to add a sentence extra just to make it something that feels more practical. So a courageous or brave woman is someone who trusts the Lord. A noble, honorable, or pure woman is somebody that lives a holy life according to the standards of the Bible. Someone that has inner strength is somebody that has a relationship with God, and she knows how to run to Him to get her strength. Having moral thoughts, this is somebody who fears the Lord, and this fear is what motivates her to purify her heart and her mind. And then being of high quality, that is somebody that lives a life that is based on the principles of the Lord. Being a good wife starts from within, so if we would like to prepare for marriage one day, then we have to look at our hearts and ask, what's in here, and face what's there if it's not good. And this can be a really uncomfortable process. And I remember when I started this, I felt so uncomfortable, and I told God, I really don't want to do this, but please help me through this. I am not perfect, and it's still a work in progress, but I'm happy, I'm so relieved that I started before I got married. So let's look at Mark 7 verse 21 to 23. For from within, this is Jesus speaking, out of the heart of men proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, theft, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lewdness, which is vileness, filthiness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile a man. And I'd also like to say that a defiled man will defile a marriage, so the same for a woman. If these are the types of things that you bring into marriage, then your marriage will suffer. But of course the list is longer than this. This is just an example to show us that the sinful habits, the sinful things that we do starts in our hearts. So why should we try to become a virtuous woman before we get married? If we think of James 1 verse 15, it says there that then when desire has conceived, so this is a sinful desire, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. So we are preparing for marriage by first focusing on becoming a virtuous woman before we get married, so that we can spare ourselves from the pain and disappointment, that we can learn how to handle tough times, including facing ourselves and saying, who am I? What have I allowed into my heart? Who have I allowed myself to become? Pain is a cruel teacher, albeit a very successful teacher, but wisdom is a gentle teacher and keeps you from the path of pain. And this is why we are focusing on becoming virtuous before we marry, so that we can avoid this path of pain and walk on the path of wisdom. So you can ask yourself, what am I teaching myself? What am I allowing myself to become? Some focus on being fit. Some women focus on being pretty. But what about our hearts? What about our inner man? What are you sowing into your life, into your soul? And once that little seed grows into a tree that starts bearing fruit, will it be poison or will it sustain you? We read in 1 Peter 3 verse 3-4, do not let your adornment be merely outward. So adornment is decorations, what makes you pretty. Arranging the hair, wearing gold, or putting on fine apparel. Rather, let it be the hidden person of the heart, with the incorruptible beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in the sight of God. So it's not saying that making yourself look pretty is sin. It is talking about a focus. So are you focusing on what you wear, how you look, all of these things that don't really matter? Or are you focusing on who you are? The beauty that you ought to have inside, that is something that grows once you give it over to God. So do you spend more time in the mirror looking at your face or at your heart? Now this is a bit of a metaphor, but you understand what I'm saying. When we walk with God humbly, we will allow Him to show us the things in us that still need fixing. Maybe you have a history of sexual immorality, rebellion, rioting. This is basically a party life. Anger, pride, everything we are and do will come from the inside. Proverbs 4 verse 23 tells us, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. A few years ago, I realized that when I keep myself busy with the things of God, then I have far less opportunity to get into trouble. And also, when I go to my Bible, when I go to pray, it doesn't feel that strange anymore. I constantly put reminders around me to think about God. Here are a few things that you can do to help you focus on God during the day. You can listen to Christian music. Music is a great way to fill your head with a certain culture, with a certain way of thinking, looking at the world, and just ways of doing things and sins that are in the songs that we just kind of accept because it's a nice tune. But I think listening to Christian music will help us to clarify our minds and turn our hearts to the Lord. And then also, not to watch filthy movies or series anymore. Check their parental guidance and see if this is actually something that will defile you or will it inspire you. We just have to make the conscious decision to filter what we watch. And then also, this is a tough one. I really recommend that women don't read secular romance novels. I personally don't think that there's anything wrong with reading books like Francine Rivers. And I've read some of them and they have actually inspired me to recommend women to stop reading romance novels, because I personally think it fills our head with false expectations, lies and lust. That's just my opinion, take it or leave it. Then I would say start reading books on marriage, start reading Christian novels, look at what is in your bookshelf and ask yourself, does this glorify God? Is this hurting me? And remove anything that really doesn't belong there. Then I would also stop listening to podcasts that are not building you up. I found that some people listen to podcasts that makes them bitter or angry or even inspires rebellion in them. And then I'd also start listening to sermons and audiobooks, and this is something that I did before I got married. I listened to hours and hours and hours of sermons on marriage, and it has been such a blessing to me. The Bible studies that I listen to, the sermons that I listen to. Then also watch Christian movies and try not to watch too much TV in general, because I think that is a waste of time and can sometimes become a crux where we don't have to face reality, we don't have to face ourselves, and we keep ourselves so busy in front of the screen that we can't go and sit in front of the metaphorical mirror and look at ourselves and sit before the feet of God and say, God, show me who I am. Please help me change. Please help me get better. And then, of course, read and pray every day. I'm not going to be an hypocrite and tell you that I've been able to do this flawlessly my entire life, because that simply isn't the truth. but it is something that I really strive to do. And I can tell you that the times in my life where I have neglected this, it was evident, and it was just a matter of time before I start seeing things fall apart. So my husband actually gave me a really good name for what I can call what you allow to influence you. So these are the gatekeepers. Surround yourself with material, with media that will remind you of God, give you the knowledge about God, help you to learn and help you to prepare. These things won't make you some super Christian. You cannot purify yourself from the outside. This is just to keep the distractions away so that that process can begin, so that you can quiet down all the voices, all the busyness and the sounds, and start looking to God and allowing Him to work on your heart. This is for you to surround yourself with the Word of God, with the things of God, with the wisdom of God, so that it can start influencing you. Because how will you ever be influenced by the things of God if you never spend time there, or if you spend only 10% of your time there and 90% of your time in the things of this world? All of these things will have an influence at the end of the day. Romans 12 verse 2. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Also Philippians 4 verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. In our next episode, we will talk about being externally virtuous. If this video was helpful to you, then please click the like and subscribe button, and I hope to see you in the next video.